Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander review for Magic the Gathering. Today is the start of the Saviors of Kamigawa set, which means we are implementing the hopefully shorter videos for each of these commanders. The whole purpose of this series is to talk about what the commander is and how does this commander work. Make sure you're playing with the commander as correctly as you can, so that way you can maximize on your deck building and have some really fun and interesting game nights with your friends. And then I will also talk about one deck idea that is either what I'm doing personally for my own collection, or it's a popular deck idea on EDH Rec. And then a second deck idea that is a fun, janky, or unique build around that would be an interesting experience for your table. So with that said, Adamaro, First to Desire, is a legendary spirit with its power and toughness being star, which is really cool. It has a mana value of 3, 1 generic and 2 red, and then it has 1 static ability. I'm gonna drink some water. Adamaro's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in the hand of the opponent with the most cards in hand. So Adamaro's power and toughness are based on which opponent has the most cards in hand, which is very interesting to think about because obviously you don't want to rely on your opponents for your commander to work. You usually want to build your deck around so your commander can just maximize off of your deck, but this is actually a commander that wants your opponents to have something going on so it can be more powerful, which is really interesting. And I've played with this deck with this commander, and it is a lot of fun, surprisingly. I can't wait to talk more about it. So like I said earlier, there's no card rulings for this card, but it is important to note that this card's power and toughness are based on the number of cards in your opponent's hand. The greatest number of cards in one of your opponent's hands. So if someone has 7 and you have 8, his power and toughness will be 7/7. Because 1, it has to be your opponent's, and 2, it has to be the opponent with the most cards in hand. So, really cool stuff, but important to note that if your opponent's highest hand total is 1, then it's going to be a 1/1. And if for some reason all of your opponents have 0 cards in hand, then Adamaro will die. So bear that in mind. Oh, I should also note, Howling Mind here, card to synergize with. When I say your opponents have 0 cards in hand, don't get it confused. If someone plays like a Wheel of Time or a Wheel of Fortune or something like that, where they discard their whole hand and then draw a new hand of cards, Adamaro won't die in the process of that spell resolving, because how Wheel of Fortune works is the player discards their hand and then draws immediately 7 new cards. So if someone does a wheel effect where they lose all their cards and then they draw more cards, let the spell resolve, and then Adamaro's power and toughness will adjust to the new hand size. That's important to note. Speaking of hand size, Howling Mind is a group hug card that's going to benefit everyone at the table, but hopefully we're going to take more advantage of it because the more cards our opponents has, the stronger our commander is. And speaking of group hug, this is the deck I built for this commander, and this is also the popular deck idea on EDH Rec. It is a group hug / group slug draw go mono red deck. You want everyone to draw as many cards as possible, which is interesting to think about because essentially you are ramping your opponent's game plan just as much as you are ramping yours. So it makes for interesting games because they draw a bunch of cards, you draw a bunch of cards, and then you burn them for all the cards they have in their hand, and you deal damage to them with your commander, who should have a lot of power because your opponents have high card values, or high card numbers. Really cool deck. Really fun. But it does make the game fast because you are ramping and speeding up your opponent's deck strategy by drawing them a bunch of cards. But this is a fantastic deck idea. and I really love it. And then another deck idea is, of course, discard. This is specifically like a self-discard strategy, and I think this would be a lot of fun because, yes, your commander may not be totally strong at all times, but you can build some fun, weird, interesting discard synergies, and your commander will still be able to fluctuate with your opponent's deck size. We did get a little bit of extra support in Final Fantasy for it, but there are some fun discard strategies in Red, and one of the fun things that I think would be fun to build around with this commander is let your opponents draw a bunch of cards, but the way you are going to draw a bunch of cards is through self-discard and take advantage of the Surly Badgesaur and other discard effects. And you could build like a cycling mono red deck, which would be a lot of fun. And you want to make your opponents all discard too with like Gyre Reach, Sanitarium. I think this would be a fun deck. This will mostly be a self-discard deck. Maybe you could build it kind of around with the Madness mechanic with some vampires. Or, like I said, you could do it with like the cycling strategy as well and benefit from that, which there has been a lot of support for in Red. And that's going to do it for Adamaro First to Desire. Really, really fun card. I actually love this deck a lot. As far as my mono red commander decks that I've built throughout the years, this is one of my favorite because, yes, the games are crazy and fast because you're drawing everyone cards, but they're crazy and they're fast. And they're really, really fun because you put the clock on so fast with this deck. I really love it. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about the discard strategy with this commander. Even though it cares about having big hand size for your opponents, I think a discard strategy would be fun to play with this commander. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this shorter video format will make it so I can make more videos faster for you guys, and it will allow me to really just focus on the meat of the matter, which is what is this commander and how does it work. This commander, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just bear in mind that if your opponents have 0 cards in all of their hands, your commander will die. So make sure one of your opponents has cards in hand, so Adamaro has a good power and toughness to work with. There are a lot of deck ideas built around this commander, surprisingly, because Group Hug or Group Slug is popular to build around. So go look on EDH Rec to find some fun deck ideas there. So it does have the ranking of S. I did not mention this in my set review for the Betrayers of Kamigawa, but I have raised the bar ever so slightly. So hopefully we'll get some more diversity in the rankings of the commanders of this set. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye! Oh, also, go check out deck lists. Go check out deck lists. I have deck lists coming up. I forgot to mention that. Go back to older videos. I have deck lists coming up, so go check those out. Okay, now bye!